This Can't Be Happening at MacDonald Hall by Gordon Korman, age 12. Chapter 13. Scrimmages to the Rescue. "We've got to stop him before he starts a panic," cried Mr. Sturgeon. "Quick, boys, after him!" Without bothering to reply, the boys took off, with the headmaster right behind them. "Where do you suppose he'll go?" Boots puffed. "Let's check the tree," Bruno replied. They changed direction and ran toward the cannon, while Mr. Sturgeon pounded past them. Meanwhile, Elmer was streaming along toward dormitory 2. "Aliens!" he screamed. "Visitors from another planet!" Lights flicked on in various windows. Pajama-clad figures, chattering wildly, began to pour out of the dormitories. "What's going on?" "Invasion from outer space." "They're coming to get us!" "Who?" "They've had it! We're doomed! They've got Elmer Drimsdale!" "They can have him." Inside, Elmer was frantically grabbing scientific equipment to study the alien craft. He ran outside and was momentarily astonished to find a huge crowd of boys milling around in wild confusion. "What's going on?" he asked. "Earth is being invaded," someone replied. "Aliens." "I knew it! I knew it!" Elmer exclaimed. "I wasn't wrong!" He ran off, still yelling, into the night. By this time, Bruno and Boots had made a thorough search of the thicket behind the cannon. Elmer was nowhere to be found. "You're his roommate," said Boots. "What would he do now?" "Let's see if he went back to the dorm." They ran across the campus and rounded the corner of the faculty building. All 3 dormitories were ablaze with lights, and the entire student body was engaged in a full-scale panic. "What the heck?" exclaimed Boots. Bruno grabbed the nearest boy to him. "What's going on?" he demanded. Perry Elbert glared accusingly at him. "As if you don't know." "Aliens!" "UFOs!" "Invaders from outer space!" the boys shouted. Boots tugged on Bruno's arm. "We've got to put a stop to this," he said urgently. "I've never stopped a riot in my life," protested Bruno. "I start them. We're in enough trouble, and we've got to find—" Boots never finished the sentence. "Who is going to defend MacDonald Hall?" Bruno shouted in a voice that carried from one end of the campus to the other. "And who'll protect those innocent girls across the road?" At that moment, Miss Scrimmage's PA system crackled. "Calling all girls! Calling all girls! This is planetary defense. You are needed in Earth's darkest hour. MacDonald Hall is being invaded by aliens." Boots groaned in despair and hid his face in his hands. It was Kathy's voice. Then he looked up and groaned again. Pink nighties, bristling with softball bats and field hockey sticks, were streaming across the road. Halfway up a tree, Bruno appeared, howling. "To the gym, men! Arm yourselves!" Boots watched in mounting anxiety as suddenly Miss Scrimmage burst out onto her balcony, screaming and waving her shotgun. At almost the same moment, Mr. Sturgeon, his red bathrobe flapping in the breeze, rushed onto the mad scene. "Don't!" he cried. "Miss Scrimmage, don't!" His shout only startled her. Boom! Boom! She fired into the air. Out of the dark sky plunged the basket, which had carried Francisco Diaz, its side sporting a hole exactly matching the one in Miss Scrimmage's sign. As it plummeted to earth, it struck a shadowy figure standing by the side of the road. Mr. Sturgeon ran over and heaved the basket off the victim. It was Elmer Drimsdale, out cold. "They've landed! They've killed Elmer Drimsdale! Quit poking me with that stupid bat! I'm not an alien!" "Teddy bears on your pajamas, Howard?" "Shut up! What's going on?" Bruno and Boots were the next to arrive at Elmer's side. Bruno dropped to his knees. "Elmer! Elmer, speak to me!" His roommate didn't move. Suddenly, Kathy came tearing across the road with a brimming fire bucket. "This will revive him!" she shouted. Unfortunately, she misjudged her aim, and the entire bucket full of water sloshed over Mr. Sturgeon's head. The headmaster just sat there, dripping and sputtering. A few drops of water sprinkled onto Elmer's face. His eyelids fluttered, and he sat up. "Good evening, sir," he said calmly. "Is it raining?" Just then, a red minibus came tearing up the highway from the direction of the city. Its sides were blazoned with the words, UFO Society, and the loudspeakers on the roof were blaring, "Attention, aliens! Do not be alarmed! We come in peace!" The truck screeched to a halt beside the highway, and a man leapt out, shouting, "Where's Drimsdale?" Elmer suddenly recalled his mission and jumped to his feet. "Here I am! Over here!" "We came as quickly as we could," panted the man. "Where are the aliens?" "This has gone far enough," Mr. Sturgeon bellowed. "There are no aliens. There is no spaceship. This is all a horrible mistake." "Who's the old geezer?" asked the UFO man. "Are you trying to interfere with a scientific investigation?" Mr. Sturgeon's face turned purple. He stood up, soaked to the skin and shivering, trying to muster what dignity he had left. "Enough of this nonsense," he spluttered. "Students, return to your rooms at once, immediately. I will deal with all this in the morning. I repeat, there is no danger. There are no aliens." Under the headmaster's icy gaze, the crowd began to drift away. Mr. Sturgeon turned to the UFO investigator. Doubtless you are able to recognize the basket of a balloon, he said. That is your UFO. Oh, mumbled the man. Well then, never mind. He scurried to his truck, shut off the loudspeaker, and drove away. My word, William, whatever happened to you? Is it raining? No, Mildred, it is not raining, Mr. Sturgeon responded with admirable control. One of the well-bred young ladies from across the road sloshed a bucket of water on me. Gracious! Why would she do a thing like that? Oh, it was purely accidental, said Mr. Sturgeon bitterly. She misjudged. Actually, she was bringing the water to revive Elmer Grimsdale. What was wrong with Elmer Grimsdale? Mr. Sturgeon sighed deeply. A basket fell on him, he explained, after Miss Scrimmage shot it down. Mildred, that woman is going to kill someone one day. Yes, yes, dear, his wife soothed. I'm sure everything will be fine in the morning. Let's not wake up Francisco. The poor child is just exhausted. Thank heaven for Bruno and Melvin, she added. I wouldn't put it quite that way, Mr. Sturgeon replied sourly. Those two have finally gone too far. Tonight was the last straw. Nonsense. All they did was save a child. They didn't create the disturbance. They went out to try to stop it. Mr. Sturgeon opened his mouth and then closed it again. There was no use trying to explain to his wife about Bruno and Boots. Instead, he marched upstairs in search of a towel and dry pajamas.